Hey folks, Julius Twisted Christian. It looks like that we are in another climax moment. And these are moments that I have felt before in the past, especially when I got into purchasing the Dinar back in 2011. But this time, this is a lot different than what it was at any other point. I think there have been multiple times that the Dinar could have RV'd, and there have been climax points over the last 9 years that I've experienced. But we're going to go ahead and discuss the climax, everything that's going on right now. And folks, I told you to, be prepared for this moment. We are 1 month until the election. But before we get into that, I'd like to thank you guys for your support on the Patreon. As you guys already know, I have a project called The Grigori. If you guys like things about biblical things, like concerning the Nephilim, giants, in the time period before the flood, and we also go into in our stories after the flood and maybe even into the future. But if you guys do want to support the channel, the link is down below in the description, and it will pop up on the screen, and you can also make one-time donations through PayPal. Alright folks, we are 1 month away from the election, and here we are, Red October. In October, especially with the elections and how everything has turned out, we have a president now who's basically going to be going into quarantine. And I found that very odd because there were a lot of people, especially in different communities, that were saying that October 2nd was a day that something big was supposed to happen. Well, the president tested positive, and now he's in quarantine. And so the markets went down. There was a lot of uncertainty. There was a lot of like the media was kind of different towards the president during this time period. And this is all a wait and see, because a lot of people say there's a plan, and there's just so many events that are occurring. And the whole thing with the global currency reset, the Dinar RV, it's a multitude of multiple events that have to happen to get to that point where it begins. And so there are things that are going to happen over here, and there are things that are going to happen over there, and there are things that are happening worldwide, whether it's concerning the banking system, whether it's concerning peace agreements, whatever the case. But right now, we are 1 month before the elections. And I've shared with you before, there might be another incident where we have another George incident before this, before the elections, and try to somehow blame it on the President of the United States. But I will say this, that the racial tensions have calmed down a lot since the George incident. So there's going to be a lot of October surprises, probably from both sides. There are some October surprises that I do expect to see. And a lot of that has to do with Mr. E, the Epstein, and a lot more files coming out, whether it be pictures or just witness testimony, victim testimony, anything dealing with Maxwell. I do expect a lot more to be released before before the end of this month, for sure. And I'm really surprised that they have actually waited this long, but I guess all that remains to be seen. And folks, whatever I tell you, you could do the research for yourself. Then, of course, before the elections, the virus rates of infection are going up. And I did expect that too as well, because we're in the climax. We're in the climax of this whole event, of this one person who is running for president that can have an effect on the whole entire world and dictate who's in power. Because we all know that the central banking system has been in power, the bankers have been in power, and they control the politicians. And that is the one system that we will see come down. But everything that's going on with the president, there's a lot of uncertainty. And that's why I tell you folks, make sure you have at least, 30 days worth of food, at least. If something was to pop off before the elections, this is not about fear. This is all about being prepared. Because biblically speaking, you had the 5 virgins, that did have oil, and then you had 5 virgins that didn't have enough oil. So that's all it is. And it may not affect everybody the same way. People who are out in California right now, the supermarkets, there's a lot of breaks in the food system, and actually there's breaks in the world food chain system. China's on the verge. You see what's happening in Venezuela, and there's a lot of starvation that's going on. So we are in a climax. And when you look at the FinCEN files, right, dealing with the banks and how they're laundering money and doing all these crazy things for they're doing all these crazy things for criminals, and governments who are under sanctions and all this other stuff. And they knew that's what it was, but they didn't do anything to stop it. And we haven't seen the fallout from that. And this is just the beginning. So you're going to probably see, as they trace down the money and where everything went, and people start being investigated and asked questions, and then you're just going to see this whole rolling effect that'll come down the line concerning the banking system. But this, with all these different multiple events, though, I do foresee just things happening quickly, very quickly. And even in some places, they are making run on banks as far as getting cash. I'm going to be presenting a video that people who are financial advisors are talking about getting out of gold, getting out of the markets, and just sticking with cash. And that's what the global currency reset is, right? I mean, if you're in Vietnam and you know that this is coming, when you want to hold on to your cash because your cash now is going to be a lot more valuable, right? If you live in Iraq, wouldn't you want to hold on to your cash because it's going to be more valuable? And there's going to be a lot of countries that benefit from the global currency reset. And maybe that is the thing to do, especially if you live outside the United States and you live in a country that has a low exchange rate. You should be hoarding cash, because if they are talking about the Vietnamese dong going up in value, even say 25, 50 cents, think about the difference, right? So really, your currency is more valuable than gold. Then you have everything with the climates concerning Iraq, right? They have a new CBI, but right now they got some issues dealing with the militias, and you got the United States threatening to close down embassies. It kind of threw Iraq off its toes because they weren't expecting such a harsh response from the United States since they just had a good meeting. And this is where I think kind of fits in where Prophet Solomon vision that she had about the dinar years ago, and it dealt with a secret meeting with Putin, Donald Trump, and Abadi. And you see that Kadimi is meeting with Abadi. Maybe Abadi is being the representative going to, doesn't necessarily say that he was in power, but I think Abadi wields a lot more power in Iraq than what we think. And Kadimi needs Abadi. And who knows what messages are being translated between Abadi, Trump, and Kadimi. So then you have all the peace agreements that are happening in Israel, and it's putting other Middle Eastern countries that haven't made any kind of agreement with Israel. And I know that there are things that are probably going on behind the scenes, and that's a very good thing. It's very scary in one sense, but then in the other sense that it's a good thing, because that's what we want, right? As Christians, we want peace, but we know down the line what's going to happen in the future. But for now, you're going to see a prosperity that you have never seen before in the history of mankind. And here we are again at a climax. The DS, or whatever you want to call them, this is the month that they have to make their moves. Whatever information they have about the president, they need to release. And whatever information the other side has, whether it's dealing with the Mr. E files or anything else, it's going to be, it could be a really bad month politically speaking. It could be a really bad month politically speaking. And it might get really, really nasty. And that's one of the things that, one of the reasons why I don't really go to a lot of the chat rooms and a lot of other newsletters and stuff like that, because there's so much misinformation that we're not seeing the real information. And we're not seeing the prophetic because we're always going after people who claim to have a date. And you're missing the point. You can get up every day and look at all the news, and you can look at the CBI site every single day, but it's not going to change. There are events that still yet have to happen and take place, in my opinion. But now with the president being in quarantine and things, who knows what the heck is going to happen. But we are rooted and we are grounded. And we know God's plan. And as far as the DS making their moves, you heard what Mr. Lemon said about burn it all down. And that struck a chord with me. Because I don't believe that they are talking about everything. And I've shared before, how there's a lot of wealthy people connected to Mr. E. There's a lot of wealthy people that do not want this person as president for various reasons, including political ideology. A lot of wealthy people. See, it doesn't matter. If you're super wealthy, it doesn't matter who's the president of the United States because you're always going to get your tax breaks. You're always going to get your tax breaks. So, but a lot of those things, with a lot of wealthy people not having to pay taxes, is the way that the system is set up. But these people do not want this president. There's a lot of power being lost. One of those biggest industries is the military, right? Private military. See, we're not starting all these different wars. We're pulling out of places. We're not spending the billions and billions out there fighting wars, fighting wars on behalf of other nations so we could continue to buy their oil for the United States. And Mr. Lemon did say burn it all down. And I thought about the economy. And I thought about all the wealthy people that are involved in the crypto business, where a lot of the corruption was at too. Keep in mind, a lot of this corruption that's tied to this FinCEN thing also deals a lot with cryptocurrency. But when he said that, I thought about the cryptocurrency, I thought about the gold markets and what we discussed on this channel about gold and how there could be a gold crash. But then you also have the stock market in general and you have the Dow. And when he said burn it all down, and that's speculation, but I know that even if they do, right, we've discussed 20,000, we've discussed the banks having to crash in order to go to a new system. You got to replace the old system with the new system, right? Imagine a fast chess game, and you're going to see a lot of that. So folks, during this climax period, we have to be grounded and don't look for dates, just go with it, right? Stop spending your time figuring out if this person is right or wrong about an RV date. There's going to be a lot of people that on the day of the RV, there's going to be a lot of people that claim that they knew the date and get you to follow them to call 800 numbers or whatever their plan are. But all these things are coming to a head. It's going to lead up to the major event. Just make sure that you are prepared. Make sure that you are ready. I don't expect this whole thing where the dollar totally crashes when things seem like they're at their worst. And that's the other thing is that on this channel I've discussed in past videos, I think there is one event that we may see, and that's the attack on Israel. And according to the information that I provided with Kim Clement, and it's not from him, this is my examination and giving you my opinion. But I believe that this is an event that could happen before the Dinar reset. Right? An attack on Israel that would only last 2 days. And it's going to be a swift victory, and there are other plans against the United States during this time period. So that just remains to be seen. This is the time now, right, where people that want to destroy this nation and Israel and anything else, they have to make their move. So folks, I'm just telling you to be prepared, be prayerful, because we're about to go on a wild ride. We really are. We are about to go on a wild ride over the next 30 days. and it maybe even longer than that, because I think, with the election and the election results, I mean, what if they try to delay the election? So we have all this, we had this whole climax all the way up to the elections, right? And then we don't have a clear winner on the night of. And then we got to go for maybe weeks or maybe even another month or two without knowing. That could be absolutely insane. The uncertainty could be that. So that's why I say you always want to be prepared. All right, folks, I thank you for listening. Tell me what you think. Give this video a like, a comment, and a share. God bless. Be safe. And with that being said, Twisted Christian out.